Hello everyone and welcome back to Foot Forecast, and in today's video I'm going to go through my Championship roundup for game week 31, and this won't include Swansea, Sheff Wednesday and Middlesbrough, Sheff United, because those games will be in a separate roundup which will go out in about 3 days after this is uploaded. But anyway, let's start off with one of the games that involved this title race, and that was between Derby and Ipswich. And Ipswich were handed an early lead in this game for a Lewis Travis own goal from the corner. He has to do better in this situation. He's facing his own goal when he heads the ball and ends up putting it past the keeper. It's a poor error by Travis. It was a dangerous delivery by Mehmeti, but he still got to do better. Mehmeti then had a big chance to make it two after a great ball in by Jack Clark, but he couldn't make it count. And then Derby had a couple of chances just before half time. And then Wes Burns, though, had a massive chance to make it 2-0. But it was a top save by Victor in goal to deny him for Derby. And it was a great ball by Mehmeti once again to find Burns. Bobby Clark then won a penalty after Matasiwa committed the foul. It definitely was a penalty, and Brewster converted the penalty from the spot straight down the middle. But then Ipswich did make it 2-1 after a great ball by Casey McAteer to find Davies, who had a brilliant header past Vickers. The header was outstanding, so composed. And then Lewis Travers was actually sent off after this for a second yellow after trying to get the ball off Furlong, who was on the ground. Just pure frustration from Travers. And there was nothing that notable to talk about in the game after this happened. And it's a massive 3 points for Ipswich. That brilliant header from Leif Davies won them the game. I thought that the Derby attack really struggled in today's game. Merkin did look good, I thought, in his first game for Derby. I thought the fullbacks of Furlong and Leif Davies were good for Ipswich in today's game. And Mehmeti also looked good for Ipswich. In terms of what this means to the table, Derby County are now 9th place in the Championship. They've slipped down 2 places, and they are 2 points away from Wrexham, who are in 6th place. In terms of Ipswich are now 4 points behind Coventry, and they've gained 2 points in Cov. And that is because Cov drew 0 in a must-win game, considering their form going into this game has been poor, especially away from home. And this looked like a massive opportunity in their home game against Oxford, who have been struggling this season. And as you would expect, Cov did look the better in the opening phases of the game, and Jamie Cumming had to make a couple of early saves. In the first half, Cov had 9 shots, but they couldn't put the ball into the back of the net. And it was nearly a own goal for Halleck, but Cumming was there to stop it going into the back of the net. Coventry continued to have chances in this game. Kieran Brown should have been sent off for Oxford, considering he was in a yellow card, but only a foul was given. Hadji Wright then had some big chances in this game, and had a huge chance through a header, but he put it wide. Oxford then went down to 10 men after Lancashire just barged into a Coventry player after being on a yellow card. It's a really stupid challenge, and it meant that Oxford were going to have to see out this game with only 10 men. And then Hadji Wright had another chance on the counter, but he once again missed a chance and put it wide. And this was frustrating for Cov, drawing a game in which they had chances to win the game against 10 men. It just wouldn't go into the back of the nets for them. They had 74% of the ball in this game. And I am concerned for Cov, because I thought the home form would get them promoted to the Premier League. But now that it looks like they're starting to struggle at home. And if they have problems away and at home, they are going to struggle for the rest of the season. For Oxford, it's a good point on the road away at Coventry. They are still 4 points away from safety, but they would have taken that on the kickoff. And this does still mean they are in 23rd place. For Coventry, they are first in the table. But if Middlesbrough win against Sheff United, they would go second in the table. And they're only 4 points now ahead of Ipswich, who are in 3rd place. So then we've got Hull at home to Bristol City. And Bristol City had some big chances early on in this game. But it was Hull who went 1-0 up through McBurney after a good ball in from Slater, and McBurney continues to score goals for Hull City. Atkinson then equalised for Bristol City for a diving header after a great ball in from Harvat. Then Vitek made a really good save after a McNair chance. And then McCrory then made it 2-1 after a great finish high into the corner for Bristol City. It was a good initial save by Panda, but Bristol City recycled it and they managed to score the goal. Then Jacobson made it 3-1 after an excellent ball on the counter-attack from Scott Twine, who was excellent for Bristol City in today's game. And then Hull looked like they still had a chance in this game after making it 3-2. It was poor keeping from VTech, not claiming the cross, and it resulted in Kieran Dowell scoring. Something that I thought was interesting in today's game is that Bristol City had a lot less of the ball compared to Hull City, but Bristol City managed to win the game. And I think this is something that teams need to do against Hull, because Hull have looked really good, I think, when they haven't actually had the ball as much and when they've been sort of a threat on the counter-attack. In terms of some individual performances that I thought were good for Bristol City, I thought Twine, Dickey and Atkinson were great. I thought Hull were pretty average across the board. In terms of what this means for the table, Hull City, they have dropped down to 4th place in the Championship. It's not the end of the world dropping 1 place. I still think they will be able to get into playoffs by the end of the season. I'm a little bit concerned by their recent performances, but they've continued to overperform all season, so I wouldn't be surprised if this continues to happen despite not playing at their best. In terms of Bristol City, that was a massive win for them. After losing 5-0 to Derby, they are currently 1 point behind Wrexham in 6th place, so they'll be hoping they can finish in the playoffs, but there's a lot of sides around that region. So then we're on to the next game between Wrexham and Millwall, and this was a big game for both sides. And Wrexham definitely started off the better, a couple of early chances. Crocombe had to make a couple of good saves. Then at the end of the first half, Millwall had some chances, but they weren't big chances, and they weren't offering a lot of attacking threats in that first half. Wrexham then had more chances after half-time, Moore and Doyle 4 saves from Crocombe, but it was Millwall who went 1-0 up in this game for a Clearworth own goal. It was a dangerous delivery from Aziz, but Clearworth has to do better with it. The ball was intended for Ivanovic, but he didn't get on the end of it. And Wrexham continued to create chances, but not enough big chances in this game once again. And then Coburn had a chance down the other end to make it 2-0, but he couldn't put the ball into the back of the net. It was a really dangerous ball in by Aziz, who's one of the best players in the Championship. And then Sam Smith had 2 massive opportunities, but he couldn't put the ball into the back of the net for Wrexham. He's been in good scoring form recently, so I expect them to put at least one of those away. It was a really good ball from Doyle for the first chance, but it was Millwall who managed to make it 2-0, and it was through Josh Coburn putting the ball past Okonkwo and to secure a massive 3 points for Millwall. Wrexham had chances throughout this game, and they should have really won this game, and it was 2 poor mistakes that resulted in the Millwall goals. They are still in 6th place in the Championship, but only on goal difference now, and they really needed to win this sort of game. It's a massive win, though, for Millwall, and a game where they created little to no chances, but they managed to put the ball into the back of the net. And now they go 6 points clear of Wrexham, and they're 1 point behind Hull, and they are 5 points behind Middlesbrough, who are in 2nd place. So this looks like a big result for them in terms of getting into playoffs, but also a big result in terms of getting into those automatic positions. So then we're on to Preston at home to Portsmouth, and Portsmouth had the better chances at the start of this game, but nothing significant, and Portsmouth were unlucky to not win a penalty, I thought, because Story, in my opinion, got nothing of the ball, and I'm surprised that wasn't given. But it was Preston who went 1-0 up in this game for a great header from Alfie Devine into the top corner. Portsmouth then responded with some more chances, but they couldn't put the ball into the back of the net. Ali was creating a couple of good chances for Pompey in this game, and Portsmouth kept pushing, but they couldn't test Cornell in goal enough, I thought. Andy Moran then had a massive chance to make it 2-0. He was bearing down on goal, but Schmid made a good one-on-one save after a good counter-attack from Preston. But this didn't matter because Preston managed to get the result, winning this game 1-0. And that's a massive win for Preston if you consider the fact that they hadn't won in 4 going into this game. And to have any chance of playoffs, they need to start picking up their form, which they have now. And they're now into 7th place. I didn't think there were many standout players for Preston. I thought they were just decent across the board. But I thought Devine was probably their best player for scoring the goal. For Portsmouth, I thought Ebu Adams was really good. And I thought Ali was excellent despite the loss. For Portsmouth, in terms of where this leaves them on the table, they are now in 19th place. They are 1 point clear of Blackburn, who are in 22nd place, but they do have 2 games in hand on the sides around them, so I'm pretty confident that they will stay up, will Portsmouth. So then we've got Blues at home to Leicester, and this was the second game in charge for Andy King as Leicester's interim, and it was also the first game after the points deduction for Leicester. And Birmingham immediately made it a worse week for Leicester after Osman put Birmingham 1-0 up after an early mistake from Pereira, giving the ball away. He has to do better in that situation. Exactly what Leicester didn't need. But Fatawu then immediately equalised for Leicester after a brilliant volley from just inside the box. Once again, though, Leicester are relying on individual quality. This is a problem they have had all season. In terms of all their goals seem to be individual moments and not sort of great play from the whole of the sides. Thomas then cleared the ball off the line after a header from Vincente, the new signing, and Leicester were up against it. And then Newman thought he put Birmingham 2-1 up, but he was offside from the corner after a great delivery from Wagner. I think he was onside, but there's obviously no VAR in the Championship to overturn the decision. Leicester continued to come under pressure, and Begovic made a great save after a shot by Vincente. And then just before half-time, Dikadoba got himself sent off after a poor challenge on Osman, which was a clear red card. And this is exactly what Leicester didn't need in this game. And this meant after half-time, Birmingham were then just searching for that winning goal, because they knew if they got one goal, it was incredibly unlikely that Leicester would manage to equalise. And they eventually did break them down after about 25 minutes, and it came through Stansfield after a great ball to find him, and this was the winning goal because Blues just continued to dominate the game and Leicester just couldn't do anything with 10 men. I thought Pereira, Skip and Dikadoba were particularly poor today for Leicester in this game. Obviously Dikadoba getting himself sent off and Pereira giving away the ball that resulted in the first goal for Birmingham in this game. The two centre-halves, though, I thought were good in Lascelles and Nelson, and they kept it together for Leicester and kept them in that game. Birmingham overall were very good. I thought Clara and Osman were outstanding. In terms of the table, and Leicester are very much in a relegation battle, especially after the points deduction. They are now only ahead of Blackburn, who are in 22nd place on goal difference. And they are really in threat of going down unless they don't start picking up results. I'd be surprised if a new manager doesn't get appointed soon. In terms of Birmingham are 2 points away from playoffs. I still think they could definitely make playoffs because I think they've got the quality to do so. And if they get into playoffs, I think they'd probably be the most dangerous side apart from the top 5 because I think they've got the best squad outside of those sort of top 5 sides. So then we've got Southampton at home to Watford. Watford had a caretaker manager in Charlie Daniels for this game, his second game in charge. His first one was that 0-0 draw with Hull. Southampton made an early error in this game, playing out from the back, but Watford couldn't punish Peretz, the Saints keeper, for making that mistake. And then Stewart for Saints had a massive opportunity up the other end, but it was a great save from Selvik in goal. There were more chances for both sides before the end of the first half, but neither side could take them. And then Cienza had a big chance for Saints on the break, but he couldn't put the ball away. And then it was Carl Lauren on debut that scored the winning goal in this game for Southampton after a great ball in from James Bree. It's 3 points for Southampton in this game. I don't think it's going to be particularly important. I think they're just going to finish in the mid-table this season. They're currently 4 points away from playoffs. For Watford are 3 points away from playoffs and they're slowly just slipping down the table. A couple of weeks ago they were in the top 6, but they're struggling to put the ball into the back of the net right now. So then we've got Charlton at home to QPR, which ended in a 0-0 draw on the Friday night. And Charlton had the better chances in the first half. Dykes had a couple of bigger chances. Charlton will be frustrated that they couldn't find the opening goal in that first half because QPR were really poor. Dykes then had another big chance after half-time, but it was a big save from Walsh in goal. QPR then actually started to dominate to the last 30 minutes of this game despite struggling in the first 60. Collier had a big chance, but it was a great stop by Kaminsky in goal. QPR were much improved in that second half. I thought Cook, Dunn and Walsh were good for QPR, but Harvey Vale struggled. Charlton were good in this game, but they'll be frustrated with only a point and a 0 draw, considering I thought they were the way better side in that first half and had chances to make it 1-0. And if they made it 1-0, I couldn't really see QPR getting back into this game. In terms of the table, QPR will be disappointed with the fact that they've only got a point in this game because they're 3 points still away from playoffs. If they won that game, they would have been within 1 point. For Charlton, that's a good point for Charlton in this game. They go 4 points clear of Blackburn. I also think this has been one of Charlton's better performances recently. I've watched Charlton recently and I haven't been that convinced by them, but I was more convinced by them in this game. So then we've got the next game, which was another 0 draw between West Brom and Stoke. So I'm going to quickly go through this game. Neither side was in great form going into this game, but it was a weird selection from Albion, I thought. No Higabo, Madger and Johnson in the starting lineup. 3 of Albion's most dangerous attackers. Looking at Stoke, I definitely think they were affected by the amount of injuries they had going into this game. And both sides had a couple of chances early on in this game. Neither side, though, having a big chance. And probably the biggest chance of this game was actually a deflected shot, a good save from Simikin in the Stoke net. There were other chances in this game, but nothing really significant. I thought Jimo Alaba was good for West Brom on his debut for the Baggies, but overall it was a low quality game as you would expect. I thought Phillips and Mepham were good for West Brom, but DK up front really struggled for Albion. It is though the first clean sheet since December for Albion. I thought for Stoke it was a poor performance from most players across the board. In terms of what this means for the table, West Brom are now 20th place in the Championship and they are 1 point ahead of Blackburn, who are in 22nd place. And I still think West Brom will stay up because I think they have enough quality. But right now, I don't feel like Eric Ramsey is using some of that quality, not starting Higabo, not starting Johnson, who've been two of West Brom's better players so far this season. And he's winless in all his games so far as manager. In terms of Stoke, I think Stoke are looking at a mid-table finish right now. They are currently 4 points away from Wrexham, who are in 6th place. So then the final game I'm going to be discussing is between Norwich and Blackburn. And Blackburn had an interim manager for this game, a massive game. They need to start picking up points. And I thought in the first half there weren't a lot of high quality chances, but Norwich were the better side and had the better of those chances. Blackburn had a couple of chances after half time, but none of them were significant enough. And Norwich did go 1-0 up in this game, and it was through Ben Slimani. It was the first shot on target in this game after Norwich hit the post. And then Toure did make it 2-0 on his debut after coming on at half-time after an initial save from Kovacevic in the Blackburn goal. I've actually watched Toure play before for Australia when they played against New Zealand, and I thought he looked like a top talent in that game. And I think it's an exciting signing actually for Norwich. I think he'll do really well. I thought the attack overall for Blackburn was really poor, but Cashin was actually very good despite losing 2-0 in this game. And in terms of Norwich, I didn't think there were many individual performances to highlight because I thought they were very good across the board. In terms of the table, Blackburn are still in 22nd place in the Championship. And right now, I'm convinced they will go down. I just don't think they have the quality to compete, and I don't think many Blackburn fans would disagree with this. For Norwich, it was an important game to get them further away actually from Blackburn in the relegation zone, and they are now 4 points clear. I'm very confident Norwich will stay up. They look so much better under Clement. Let me know your thoughts on this Championship roundup, and if you enjoy this video, go subscribe to the channel as well as liking the video.